If we are to understand the value of critical reflexivity and the use of it as a quality criterion in research, we have to start somewhere else. We have to consider what subjectivity means. The practice of critical reflexivity depends on us being conscious about our own subjectivity. What is subjectivity in qualitative research? Is it a virtue, a viewpoint, or perhaps a limitation? At face value, subjectivity appears like a contrast to the traditional virtues that we implicitly or explicitly meet when research is discussed in public. Isn't science expected to be objective, sober, systematic, factual, verifiable, falsifiable? While these might be ideals that still shape our expectations, many philosophers of science are of the opinion that these virtues are unrealistic and even counterproductive. That we, by acting as if we are objective when we in fact are not, make things worse. Donna Haraway is among the most influential critics of objective science. Based in a feminist framework, she has built a defense of subjectivity as a virtue which uses a powerful metaphor, that of vision. Throughout the history of science, she argues that unmarked subjects, typically Western, white, male like myself, have tried to mask their own positions and interests when making scientific claims. The power to see and not be seen. But all knowledge is seen from somewhere. They are situated knowledges. Haraway wants us to be open and accountable about the particularity and embodiment of all vision. Rather than pretending our objectivity, we should therefore be positioning our subjectivity. This process of constant, self-conscious scrutiny of ourselves as researchers and of the research process is what we call critical reflexivity. In qualitative methodology, this is a more robust value than that of objectivity. Demonstrating critical reflexivity is of course easier said than done. For how do we know what is relevant positioning of ourselves as researchers and what is simply autobiographical details that distract the reader and maybe make the outside world disregard our research? As you will find out, conceptualizing subjectivity in the abstract, like I do now, is often much easier than demonstrating reflexivity in practice. Subjectivity in research is not just something we need to account for. It is something we should treat as a resource. In qualitative methodology, we bring in ourselves in full, our commitment and our engagement into the research process. And most of us, if not all, are motivated by a wish to be relevant. This is a strength in your research, not a weakness, but it should be accounted for through open reporting. In the literature on relevance, it becomes clear just how many interpretations of relevance there are among researchers, even within a single discipline like human geography. A while back, geographers Lynn Staley and Don Mitchell spoke to colleagues in the US about what it means to be relevant, and they found 5 different ways of conceiving of relevance. While this is a snapshot of how an interpretive community on another continent makes sense of themselves, I believe that most of these points resonate to some degree with how master students in Norway think about their own research project. For some of those Staley and Mitchell spoke to, being relevant was about addressing something that matters here and now, pandemics, climate change, etc. And they call this actuality. For others, relevance was determined by the discipline, addressing questions of centrality to their own research community. A third way of understanding relevance was as a personal commitment to your own research agenda. Then there were many who emphasized applicability, meaning that your findings were useful for somebody out there, a group, an institution, a movement, a cause. The final value connected to relevance was that research can be educational to others, and as a teacher I can relate to this. It is much more encouraging to do research knowing that it can inform and inspire students. If we can agree that relevance is an important quality of social research, then subjectivity is part and parcel of relevance. Who we are, how we relate to the research field and to our interpretive community matters, and we should not be afraid of getting involved, even though researchers bear a particular responsibility for understanding the implications of their own involvement.